finally be the news we've all been waiting for. Preliminary results suggest a new vaccine has been developed that can prevent more than 90% of people getting coronavirus. The pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and its partner BioNTech have tested their vaccine on nearly 44,000 people in 6 countries, and no safety concerns have been raised. They intend to apply for emergency approval to use the vaccine by the end of the month. Well, lots of questions remain, though. The announcement is on the basis of very early analysis. It hasn't yet been approved, and if it is, it's not clear when it will be available in the UK. Our medical editor, Fergus Walsh, has more.
This is a huge day for science and perhaps the world. For the first time, a COVID-19 vaccine has been shown to protect against the disease. Plenty of caution is needed, but the preliminary results of the Pfizer-BioNTech trial are highly promising. There were more than 43,000 volunteers on the trial, which began in July. Half got the coronavirus vaccine, half a dummy or placebo jab. Since then, 94 volunteers have got infected with coronavirus, nearly all in the non-vaccinated group. As a result, Pfizer says the vaccine is more than 90% effective in preventing coronavirus infection.
It's such a great day for science and humanity. You know, I've never felt professionally such a moment of joy, and we were just jumping up and down in the chairs of joy for humanity, joy for medical advances, to put an end to this dreadful pandemic.
The vaccine uses a tiny part of the genetic sequence of coronavirus rather than the actual virus itself. Synthetic material, known as RNA, is injected into muscle cells in the arm. This stimulates the creation of antibodies, Y-shaped proteins, which should bind onto coronavirus, preventing future infections. Killer T cells are also produced. These should identify and destroy cells which have become infected. Scientists around the world have moved at an extraordinary pace to develop coronavirus vaccines. There are 47 in human trials. The UK government has advance orders for 6 of them, including 40 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. That's enough to immunise 20 million people, as you need 2 doses. Pfizer says by the end of the year, 50 million doses will be available globally, but only a minority will come here to the UK. The government's also ordered 100 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. We're still awaiting their results. It's thought around 4 million doses will be available here by the end of the year. At the Number 10 press briefing, cautious optimism.
I have to say that this is really a very important scientific breakthrough. I'm certain of that.
How potentially important are the vaccine results today?
It is crucial that we do not overdo it. We cannot let our enthusiasm tonight run away with us, folks. I'm very, very sorry to say this. It's more vital than ever now that we follow the basics, that we wait and see whether this vaccine lives up to its promise. We continue with the measures we have in place.
Pfizer says it will apply for emergency authorization for its vaccine towards the end of the month. Regulatory approval could come in the first half of December. A first small step, perhaps, towards ending this pandemic.
Fergus Walsh reporting. Let's speak to Dr. Andrew Preston. He's from the Department of Biology and Biochemistry at the University of Bath. How enthusiastic are you about this vaccine?
Pretty enthusiastic. Obviously, we've been waiting for some time for the efficacy data, so how effective the vaccine actually is to come out. So to have a level of 90%, I think that's higher than we dared hope for throughout the summer. So a really important milestone, but as the Prime Minister pointed out, sort of few caveats to clear up before we know exactly how the vaccine can be used.
How long is the regulatory process, because that's the next hurdle for it, isn't it? I mean, could that be speeded up? I mean, could that be a matter of weeks?
Well, I think every part of this vaccine process that could have been speeded up compared to the normal process has been. So I would expect the regulatory process to be expedited too. So exactly how long it'll take, it might depend on the complexity of the data. So a couple more weeks left before the sort of 2 months of safety data is complete. But I would imagine the FDA in particular is primed to go through this pretty quickly.
Help me out. What do we know about what this vaccine can do? I mean, can it prevent transmission, or does it just prevent the illness itself in the individual?
So these are some of the details that I think need to come out when the trial is actually complete. This trial isn't really capable of detecting whether transmission can be broken, or even whether somebody is able to still pick up the virus. But it will certainly, the indication are that it should stop overt COVID disease in most people, according to the data today.
Is it the same technology that has been used, do we know, in the Chinese and the Russian vaccines, and indeed all the other vaccines that are being developed around the world?
No, so this is one of the really new developments in a vaccine platform. So as Fergus pointed out, this is a messenger RNA-based vaccine. They've been used experimentally before. If licensed, this would be the first RNA vaccine licensed for use in the general population. The Imperial vaccine is also based on a very similar technology. The Moderna vaccine is a DNA-based one. And of course, then we have several novel viral vaccines, such as the Oxford one, and then a whole host of perhaps more traditional vaccines where we inactivate the virus and inject that. So we've got a suite of different vaccine approaches being used, but the Pfizer vaccine is one of the real new types of vaccine being developed.
One thing that struck me, I think it's got to be stored at minus 70 or minus 80 degrees centigrade. I mean, that's going to be a problem logistically, isn't it, to get this around the world?
It certainly is. It's one of, if not perhaps the major drawback of this particular technology. I mean, we've known about this for some time. RNA is an inherently unstable molecule, so that sort of really, really low temperature is to keep it intact up until the point where it's delivered. I mean, even refrigeration cold chains have proven a real problem in getting vaccines to all parts of the world, particularly where the infrastructure perhaps isn't as developed as we're fortunate to have. So if the RNA vaccine is going to be rolled out to all parts of the globe, then that's a major, major hurdle to overcome.
As an academic in the Department of Biology and Biochemistry, could it be that this Pfizer technique works alongside other vaccines using different techniques, which could be equally as effective? I mean, could there be a whole menu of different vaccinations using different techniques to actually address the same problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think something that's really, really cause for optimism is that we know the immune responses that have been elicited by a number of these different vaccines, and they all appear to have a fairly similar profile to this Pfizer vaccine. So this is the first real indication that immune response is capable of preventing disease in people. So I guess if we extrapolate, then some of those other vaccines that elicit a very similar immune response, we would now have even more hope that they would be just as efficacious, or certainly at least have good effectiveness as the Pfizer one. Therefore, as you say, we might have multiple different vaccine alternatives available to us for use in different types of cohorts of people, different age groups, different comorbidities, and certainly at different points around the world.
OK. Dr. Preston, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on BBC
My
News.
pleasure.
A little later on, actually, we will be attempting to answer your